Knight to be back. And let's start game number 1 between Dengler and Knight in 3, 2, 1, Tetris. Knight has started, Dengler has started like a second later. You know, standard stream delay stuff. And Dengler of course also said good luck, have fun here in the chat, which means both players do show us good sportsmanship, encouraging each other exactly what we want. And with the first Tetris going to Knight, we have a nice L-tuck going to Dengler into a J here Tetris. So nice next Tetris for Dengler, which means we have two Tetrises to 2 Tetrises, 46 versus 45. And now the next Tetris for Knight and one more for Dengler. Dengler has played a single more due to burns in the beginning. But that's the only difference here between these two players. And we have one more Tetris here going to Knight into one more Tetris. So Knight now to 114 against 92 for Dengler. Dengler also getting the next bar and Tetris for Dengler. And here Knight avoided that dependency there and did a nice solution. Which means 136 for Knight versus 137 here for Dengler. Now Knight ahead by having played a bit more, but now it's again neck and neck. Nice setup for the L-tuck here on Dengler's side. For a second it looked like there was some issues in the placements, but it was exactly what he wanted, exactly what he needed even. And yeah, now one more Tetris here to Dengler. So pretty clean games here for both of these players. Nothing major that has happened. A single burn here and there on Knight's side now. But as long as they don't add up to like 20-30% of the amount of lines that you play, it's generally acceptable. Like a bit of burning is just what you need to do, and Dengler's quite high here. Needs a bar for the right side or a different clean setup. Yeah, okay, perfectly. Does get the bar. Not a Tetris, but that has allowed him to get much lower in the stack here. And is now on nice height once again. Knight has get the next bar into Tetris and now also is a nice height. Incorrect L piece here for the tuck. And here's now the J piece for the tuck for Knight. And we have 267 for Dengler against 259 here for Knight. Knight has played a few lines more, which means we have half a Tetris pace lead for Knight. And we can see the 20 piece drought on Knight's side, which means there's a bit of survival now. We can also now see that Knight is about 8 pieces ahead in the sequence compared to Dengler. And here's now the Tetris for Dengler as well. We have 294 for Dengler against 291 here for Knight at basically the same lines, which means we have a small lead here for Dengler, who is quite high, setting up for the burn. We can see that small drought here into bar that Dengler wasn't able to use for Tetris, but he can use the next bar. 324 for Dengler against 360 here for Knight, which means Knight is around about 1.5 Tetrises ahead of Dengler here. As we are over halfway through level 18 here in game number 1. And we have the next small drought here now, 16-17 pieces. But really a drought here for these players. Like we had 2 that are in this area or higher. So that I say anything lower than 20 pieces does barely count as a drought. And basically is none at all. We have the next Tetris now for both of these players, and both are now above the 400k point bar before 100 lines, which means a 500k transition for both players should be pretty realistic to expect now. Like we already have 478 here for Knight, so Knight actually on a 600k pace, depending on what pieces do fall down of course. Would now love to get a bar. Oh, got the bar and incorrect JPs here, so a bit of burn setup on Knight's side, which might actually allow Dengler to close in, depending on, yeah, Dengler can use the bar for Tetris, so Tetris now to Dengler. 491 for Dengler against 41 here for Knight. Next Tetris to Dengler, so Dengler now is about 1.5 Tetrises ahead of Knight. who has to burn a bit, and you have the next now 20-piece drought, so Tetris to Knight, and Dengler will see the small drought here in just a few seconds. Yeah, and here's another drought into Tetris. Nice spin for Dengler. Knight is currently playing one high here. Once the T-Tag, nice T-Tag. And we have the next like 20-piece drought here. Let's see how bad this will go. Quite close to the transition. 24 pieces, pretty decent. And the next Tetris for Knight into 542, 542 transition here for Knight. Dengler needs the banner for column 3, does get the bar for column 3, one line left to go for the transition. And next Tetris here to Dengler into 592, which means you have like a 50k transition lead here for Dengler. So in terms of pace, 2 Tetrises and some change on level 18, or a Tetris and a half on level 28. Next Tetris going to Dengler. Of course, the amount of points you get for line played is multiplied by the level that you're on, which means that if you have played more, so in a higher level, you do get more points per line and per Tetris. And here's one more into 701 for Dengler versus 723 for Knight. Yeah, and once again, one of these probably about 20-piece droughts. Let's see how long it will be. 24, yeah, 24 pieces. This was like the 5th, 6th drought this game alone that was in this area. So despite all of these small droughts, which, you know, can get you into positions where you can't get Tetrises out of the upcoming long bars, both players staying in, but Dengler didn't get the T-piece over. So Dengler topping out at 734, which means Knight, you have won game number 1. It is now 1-0 for Knight. 3, 2, 1, Tetris. Both players have started, and we immediately do have a different stacking start here. But both are pretty equal in terms of like niceness. And as Blue Scooty Grandpa is pointing out, yes, it's about 1 month until CTWC. CTWC is from the 6th to 8th of June, which is in pretty much a month. Well, the month as in 31 days or 30 days and not 4 weeks. But yeah, so these players of course are warming up for CTWC as well. At least assuming that they will attend. I do not know for sure if any of these two will. Any of these two, you know, that's kind of sound weird, but you know what I mean. And Knight is high once again here, so we can see getting the TPs, getting some nice small burns in next LPs. Oh, it's quite high. Right side is a bit tough to access here. Does get the next LPs here over. Bars now, yeah, and no burn here, which means Knight is topping out at 108. Unfortunate early top out here for Knight. 2, 1, Tetris. So whoever manages to win this game will be pretty close to winning the match, just gonna be 1 game off. So this is, at least in terms of nerfs, arguably the most important game here. And we can see that both players already got a Tetris in, which means 22,800 versus 22,800. And we also have a bit of a lead here now for Dengler, as Knight wasn't able to get a second Tetris in for a bit. Had to take a few burns, which means we are now actually neck and neck again, as Dengler also needs to burn a bit here, having about a triple in total to burn here, which has now increased to Tetris, which of course means that, yep, a Tetris does happen. So a nice position here for Dengler. And this is Tetris for Dengler into 117. So in terms of points, we have 144 for Dengler versus 161 for Knight. Both players didn't have the most amazing board setup there, but Knight was able to recover a bit quicker, I'd say, than Dengler. Both players are clean now though, which means we should be able to see a couple of Tetrises coming up. And yeah, here's a Tetris for Dengler, here's a Tetris for Knight. 167 versus 188. And Dengler is in a kinda similar position as Knight was in the last game, just noticeably lower, which means he should have a better chance of staying in, but now the left side is kinda high, is able to get a few burns in, which allows him to get low on the stack, needs the bar to the right side, does get the bar over. LJ dependency also filled in, into an L dependency and bar here, closed the bar, got the bar, gets some more pieces on top right side, is now closed off, but is able to get a few singles in, is staying low, getting the next bar over to the right as well, perfect. Of course, Knight is able to get about a 5 Tetris in lead now, which is quite the massive lead. It is 191 versus 306 as Dengler just is open again here. And one more Tetris to Knight. Knight set up for a T-spin as well. Here does get a T-piece, but doesn't spin it in, which means there's now a bit of burning coming up for Knight. And that should allow Dengler to close the gap a bit, depending on the bars, for example. But here's now the first bar into Tetris for Dengler. So now it's down to a 3.5 Tetris lead here for Knight, as we are at about 90 lines. And one more Tetris to Dengler. Knight could try to play 3 high here, and we have a bit of mistops of these SZ pieces, I believe, on Dengler's side. Let's see if he can get them back into a nice position here. While Knight is now having a 3 high Tetris here. And we can see Dengler just trying to clean up the mess earlier. But he has a small hole in the stack, which means when the next long bar does fall down, it's only gonna be a triple here for Dengler, as well as next Tetris to Knight and one more Tetris to Dengler. 374 for Dengler against 458 here for Knight, but Knight has played 8 lines left, which is 2 Tetrises, so we are actually still in the about 5.5 Tetris lead here for Knight, and one more bar to Knight. The lead is also reflected in the Tetris rate here currently. As we can see, it's 50% against 75%. The Tetris rate does basically say how much of the amount of lines played have been Tetrises. So it's always good to take a look at that. And Dengler's get the C-spin here, nice. Also open once again, which means Dengler can go for the final Tetris here. 429, 429 transition here for Dengler. And we can see Knight is like 120 ahead and can still get 2 Tetrises, and in theory, in reality it's gonna be 1 at most because of the 2 holes in the stack. Okay, yeah. Now Knight is set up and does get the bar into Tetris. We had 429 for Dengler and 576 here for Knight, which is like 140k, so 6 Tetris lead here to Knight. massive lead, getting the next Tetris in. We can also see the happy knot here on the Knight side into one more Tetris. So yeah, Knight is quite happy with how the transition has went so far. Left side of Dengler is a bit tougher to reach now. He does want to get a triple. Okay, want to say Tetris, but he got a triple instead. Here's now the next Tetris to Knight, and Dengler's cleaning up a few lines here now. And one more Tetris does go to Dengler. 593 for Dengler against 660 for Knight. And here's the next Tetris to Dengler as well as one more to Knight. So your level 19 has been going quite well here for these two players. Not perfect, but what I'd consider to be pretty decent. And here's the next Tetris to Dengler. And one more to Dengler. 688, 773, but Dengler has played 13 lines, which is about 3 Tetrises more, so it's 5.5 Tetris difference still, and we have a drought. Dengler's quite high, but let's get the next bar over Tetris for Dengler, into one more Tetris here for Dengler, and we have the same drought into one Tetris for Knight, not able to get the second Tetris in. And is now waiting for the next bar here at level 24, and we have 26 for Dengler, so we are about halfway through level 19 on Knight's side, and in like the last third of 19 for Dengler. Of course, after level 19, so starting at level 29, we have the level 29 speed, which both of these players are still capable of playing, so we might be able to see level 29 until 39, and at 39 we do reach the double kill screen, at which the game does basically become unplayable for these two players here. Like in the theory it's somewhat playable, but in reality nobody can because of how the double kill screen is implemented. Like it falls 2 rows in 1 frame and you can't do any movements in between here. Yeah, okay, also Dengler on the last 6 lines here. In terms of points, has theoretically catched up, but again it's like a 3 Tetris difference in terms of the amount of lines played. And that is also coming to play. Dengler quite high here, needs a bar, does get the next Tetris in, is now at a max out. Knight also max out a bit ago with the next Tetris to Knight. Knight can go for 2 more Tetrises. So for Dengler this now is a situation where he needs to find a way to get ahead on level 29. He has about 2.5 Tetrises of deficit currently, which means Dengler does need to go for Tetrises, whereas Knight is still in a situation where Knight can be like, okay, I don't have to go for all of those Tetrises, I can just survive a bit and wait how the situation evolves on Dengler's side. Dengler's quite high currently, but let's get some nice burns in. Is basically open for the center duel once again, is open, waiting for the next bar, does get the bar into Tetris, so Dengler's now ahead in terms of points. We have 1.17 for Dengler against 1.15 for Knight, so about half a Tetris or 25,000 point lead here for Dengler. Dengler's getting quite high, he needs something for the right side, he doesn't get the pieces up to the left, he did get the bar over, so next 2 Tetrises for Dengler, 1.27 for Dengler against 1.17 here for Knight. Dengler is in quite a tough position here, as we can see board-wise. Apparently he just got a double flip that I missed, but he's able to burn this low now, and he is nearly at the bottom of the stack once again. So amazing survival here that Dengler has shown us on level 29. Got really high, was able to get the bars over for the Tetrises, is able to also show us now how to burn down on level 29. This is exactly what he needs. In terms of points, Dengler is currently 2.5 Tetrises ahead of Knight. And them saying double flip on a Tetris bar got him into the spot. Oh, yeah, kinda missed that. Next Tetris for Dengler, 1.37 versus Knight at 1.26. Going for a bit of burns now as well. But Dengler was just able to show us peak aggression here on level 29 speeds. Is now topping out at 1.4, which is a 3 Tetris lead for Knight. So if Knight was able to play perfect, he would be able to catch up to Dengler, but Knight's in quite the tough board here. yeah, this is not gonna be able to catch up to. And as we can see, we now have the 2-1 for Dengler. Huge GG's for Dengler to catching up the like 150k lead that Knight had on the level 29 transition. Game number 4 in 3, 2, 1, Tetris. Both players have started. And we can see the first Tetrises here. Oh, and sorry if I used the incorrect pronouns for Knight. That wasn't on purpose. I just use he sometimes on autopilot. I do apologize for that. I don't try to offend anyone, so if that happens, it's purely an accident. So thanks for pointing that out, Zem. But yeah, I'm also trying to just get used to using they instead, because that, at least to me, does include all pronouns and it's not offensive to anyone, but it's not 100% ingrained into my brain, sadly. Also, next Tetris here going to Dengler, 138 for Dengler against 136 here for Knight. Knight waiting for the next bar currently. And I would feel, yeah, we can see that the drought is now picking up, but just a tiny drought of like 17 pieces doesn't really matter in my opinion. Like 17 pieces droughts, we have seen them feels like 10 times today. Macy saying some people still don't like they, but it's better than he for sure. Yeah, that's my opinion as well. Like, to me, they is inclusive to all genders, so I hope that it's the same for most people. But we see now 28 piece drought, Dengler being quite high, getting the bar over for the Tetris. Perfect Tetris in terms of timing here for Dengler. And next Tetris is here again, 212 for Dengler. Now 235 versus 235, it is neck and neck, and Dengler will have to burn at least a single here due to that L piece that he didn't filter over when looking over to the stream, I guess. Now having a double bar dependency filled in one bar, and the second bar dependency can turn into a Tetris to Dengler. It is neck and neck here, 260, 260 basically. And next Tetris to Dengler. We also had a Tetris to Knight. Looks like Dengler is now trying to clean up the small situation that he has at the bottom of his stack. While Knight, of course, is in a clean position, so Knight might be able to get a bit of a lead in now. Which, of course, Knight does pretty much need here up until level 29, as we saw in the last game. Because in level 29, Dengler is able to catch up quite a lot. And we have the next Tetris for Knight here, as well as one Tetris to Dengler and one more to Knight. So that's 337 for Dengler versus 357 on Knight's side. And one more Tetris to Knight here. Dengler has a small hole in the stack here, as we can see in row 3. Which means he can still go for Tetrises, but he is 3 high above the ground. And will want to clean them up before level 19. Doesn't have to, but it's a want. At least if you ask me. But Dengler is going for the Tetrises whenever it's possible, of course. Knight also just closed the well here. Feel like that blue S piece wasn't exactly what Knight wanted there. And Knight is open once again, getting the bar into Tetris for Knight, as well as Tetris for Dengler. 460 for Dengler, 500 for Knight, so about a 4 40k lead, or nearly 2 Tetris lead to Knight. Next Tetris here going to Knight into 523, and we're in the last about 16 lines until the level 19 transition. Small misstep here of that red S piece for Dengler, not getting the bar over as well, getting the spin here though. Got the next piece over to the left, but yeah, now Dengler does want to clean up the small situation at the top. He was able to get up to clean up these small overhangs, which means he can now go for clean Tetrises in. In the meantime, Knight managed to stay clean. And we have 592 for Knight against 534 here for Dengler. Both transition within the next Tetris. And we can see Knight has a small hold here, 2-hole stack in the board, which means there's gonna be a bit of cleanup here. And we have 584, 622, so only 1.5 Tetrises lead here to Knight. Knight going for a 2-high Kadam 8 setup. And we have a bit of a drought, but we saw the bar on Dengler's side and now also on Knight's side. Next Tetris to Dengler. Dengler having the T-piece, not that nice. But we can see Dengler cleaning this up now. And Knight getting the next bar into Tetris here. So Knight is once again able to build up a bit of a lead here against Dengler. Going for the next Tetris here. 669, 685. And one more Tetris here now to Dengler. So it's now down to about half a Tetris lead for Knight, and we have the width fulfilled here for Dengler into one more Tetris. And now the lead is in favor of Dengler. Next Tetris to Knight, lead in favor of Knight, so it's neck and neck. And we have the next Tetris to Dengler, so Dengler now in the lead, going for the S spin into Tetris, into one more Tetris here. Also just a Tetris on Knight's side. Knight looks like she's cleaning up the board here in order to get into clean once again. But Dengler also needs to burn a few lines here to get clean again. Once the L piece does work out nicely, getting the next bar into Tetris for Dengler, 819 against 782. The lead is now in favor of Dengler of a bit less than Tetris, and one more Tetris here now to Dengler. Knight is not playing as aggressive as she could, and instead is going for some setups here. Like, you know, to get the board into a bit cleaner position. We are on level 25, which means we are at about the halfway point of level 19. And we saw how dangerous Dengler is in level 29 before, so Knight does definitely want to find a way to get ahead here of Dengler, to, you know, get that bit aggression in that Dengler can't. But it's now a 3.5 Tetris lead here for Dengler. Nice position for Dengler. And we have the next Tetris to Dengler, max out for Dengler. And next Tetris to Knight. Now both players are in level 27. If we take the Knights into consideration, like it is now, it's only a 2.5 Tetris lead here for Dengler. But 2.5 Tetrises is still a big lead to catch up on level 29, especially if your opponent is still playing, as it's then catch up and not chase down. Okay, one more Tetris possible for Dengler before level 29, so 1.15 would be possible. Let's see if Dengler will be able to get that last Tetris, or if the route is gonna be too long here. And yeah, here's the bar. 1.15 transition for Dengler. One more Tetris, so nearly at 1.2 now. And Knight at 1.02, like 102, which means you have a 130k or like 3 Tetris lead here for Dengler. Knight's but also in a bit of a tough position, doesn't get the bar over to the right here. Getting the next piece over, a few burns in, so Knight is surviving this. Dengler needs something for the left side, got a piece to the left, go to the next Tetris, and 6 Tetris lead now to Dengler. 6 Tetris, this is a massive lead to Dengler. Dengler is getting a bit high now once again, wanting the next bar here in the next drought of 24 pieces. Getting open for the bar and is able to get a bit lower on the stack. 200k lead here for Dengler. Dengler topping out at 1.3, which means Knight, your goal is 1.3. It's about 230 left to go, or 5.5 Tetrises. So there's gonna have to be like 2 Tetrises, maybe even 3 for Knight to win this game. So Knight, as we can see, is now going for the next Tetris, getting the Tetris in. About 4 Tetrises left to go. And doesn't get the bars over. 2 bars in a row not going over here, Knight side. Which means we have our winner. Our winner for this match is Dengler, going into a 3-1. And we have, yeah, GG's to Dengler for showing us a good performance here, winning the match. And of course also Knight for showing us what she can do here. Wasn't able to outplace Dengler here in 2 games, but other than that, nice performances. So GG's to both of these players.
Stacked very, very high. Tetris for Alex, Tetris for Knight. $71,000, $68,000, just a few extra burns. Ooh, Alex with a slight misdrop there, but does get it burned away. That's going to be a 2-burn solve. Oh yeah, it was an L tuck. There we go. Yeah, nice L tuck there, but standing upright. Both players shaking their heads, not happy with the way these piece sequences are panning out, but working through this just fine. Long bar dependency, gonna take the triple there for Knight. Let's give Alex a chance to maybe build a slight lead. But Alex having to take some burns here and there too. 126 to 142. Nice looking stacks for both players. T-tuck set up and executed by Alex Thatch. These boards have been just climbing all game. It must be a droughty seed because here we go again. There's the long bar finally for Knight to go to 174. And there's a Tetris for Alex Thatch to go to 214. And another one for Knight. Almost back to backs there. 259 to 221. 259, 243. So this is a real-time lead for Alex Thatch as the line count is the same. About a half a Tetris lead. These players exhibiting some DAS tendencies, and by that I mean the infamous DAS head shake, as the seed has been throwing them a fair number of curveballs, having to result in some compromises here and there. Both players have handled it just fine though. Alex Thatch maybe with a slightly more efficient start, currently at 329, Knight at 256. I don't feel like I trust that Tetris rate on Alex Thatch's board, because at the same line count his Tetris rate is lower than Knight's and has a higher score, so that doesn't make sense. Knight's board starting to get a little dirty here. Oh no, that was a misdrop from Knight. Gets the long bar over. Good skim of the double. Has to put a square over that hole though on the left side. This is going to be a pretty extended dig sequence from Knight. 292. That's a dirty Tetris from Knight, though. Never mind. I mean, it's still going to be a dig sequence, but if you're going to down stack, Tetris is the way to go. 318 to 449. As Knight is working her way down this stack. Finally getting some pieces in the board under control. 472 for Alex Thatch, who's also not clean, but certainly hasn't been burning as much, and is now set up for Tetris. 473 to to 351. Oh no, Alex doesn't get that T all the way over. Does get the T spin though with level longbar to fill out that left side. Oh no, Knight. I think had to pause for a second. Yeah, had to pause for a second. No problem. Continue on. We have a dirty Tetris set up for Knight. Yeah, I'm not sure. We'll find out. There's a dirty Tetris there from Knight. 376 to 528. Alex Thatch about 10 lines away from transition. Knight about 8 lines away. There's a Tetris for Alex Thatch. 551 to 382. Knight is set up for another dirty. Alex going in at 599. Almost set up for Tetris. Now set up for a Tetris. And gets the bar. 626. Knight's in at 431. Center well, column 7. Tetris for Knight. There's another one right behind it, 480 to 629. As Knight is looking to try to make something happen here in the level 19 speeds to make up this deficit. It's another Tetris for Knight to go to 533, 681 for Alex Thatch. Both players stacking up for yet another Tetris. Both players Tetris ready as of now. Now holding up for long bar, Alex Thatch gets one. Knight does get one just in time. 563 to 735 into 22. There's another Tetris for Alex Thatch, just pouring on the points here in the post. Knight doing well too though. Knight currently at 599. So it's already gotten more than 200k in post. Line 169 for Knight. Hey now, line 176 for Alex Thatch. Tetris to go to 826. And the hey now counter is at 1. It's another Tetris for Knight. Alex Thatch can't figure out what level it was on. Still can't figure out what level it's on. Keeps saying it's 18. Oh, maybe it's not. Maybe it's 24. I don't know. You tell me. Level 25? Maybe. Maybe it's level 25. Maybe it's level 18. Knight with a dirty Tetris center well. 5 off the bottom. Goes to 784. A 3 high setup, but there's nothing that can fit in there. Gonna have to just try to burn it away. Level 26 at 789, 994 for Alex Thatch, who is just calm, steady, and scoring right now. 1 million max out score for Alex Thatch. 796 for Knight, who is a little behind in lines. So could make some of this up with that deficit, but still definitely behind in pace. 804 to 1,068,000. There's a Tetris for both players. The tapping just a little off tonight, but that was a really beautiful Vit setup in level 28 for Knight. 850 now, 885. 1.138 for Alex Thatch. Into the second transition into kill screen. And Knight tops out right at 29. Transition a little high. No bar came to bail him out. 887 will not be enough. Alex Thatch currently at 1.222. We'll take game number 1. GG's. Three, two, one. Tetris.